I never planned to work in special education. After university, I applied for several teaching positions, regular schools, regular subjects, but somehow, none of my applications went through. A week later, I got a call from the district office. There's an opening, temporary position, assistant in a correctional class up north. You're a good fit. I didn't agree right away, but I needed the money and it was just a 3-month contract. I thought, what could possibly go wrong? The village was called Hlybakanska. The school looked ordinary enough, an old 2-story building with cracked walls and flower beds someone was still tending. The correctional class was in a separate annex with its own entrance. The teacher, Miss Stefania, was elderly yet energetic. She looked at me and smiled, strangely, like she recognized me. You'll do fine here, just stick to the routine. There were 7 children in the class. They sat perfectly still, didn't talk to each other, didn't smile. One of them looked right at me and whispered, "You'll do better this time." I assumed I misheard, but the next day the same boy leaned over and quietly asked, "Do you remember the last attempt?" I just smiled and gave a neutral answer. I didn't take it seriously. Kids with special needs sometimes say things that sound strange. We were taught that back in university. But for some reason, his words didn't leave my mind. They didn't sound like imagination. They sounded like memory. On the 3rd day, I learned that this class didn't use bells. The schedule was strict, not by hours, but by sounds. When someone tapped 3 times on the metal pipe by the door, it was time for reading. 2 long knocks, break. 1 short knock, drawing time. The kids responded instantly. No one explained it to them. They already knew. Each student had the same notebook, the same pen, the same movements. They drew geometric shapes, circles, grids, spirals. They never asked for a new sheet, never questioned why. One day, I tried to talk to one of the girls. Just something normal, something human. "What's your name?" She answered without emotion. "I've been assigned number 4. Personal addressing is not permitted." Miss Stefania overheard and placed a hand on my shoulder, gently but firmly. "Don't blur the boundaries, it disrupts the process." The next week, I stayed after class. I wanted to get a better grasp on the schedule and go through some records. Miss Stefania handed me the keys to the filing cabinet. She said, "You may review the documentation if it helps ease your mind, but don't open the archive. That drawer isn't for you." I opened the upper drawers, looking for the attendance journal. One of the children's notebooks slipped from the table. As I bent down to pick it up, my hand bumped the bottom drawer. It slid open on its own. Inside was a plain folder, no label, and a notebook exactly like the ones the children used. On the cover, my name. At first, I thought it was a coincidence. Maybe old records, someone else with the same name. But when I opened it, the first page held my handwriting. A few lines written in pencil. Personal. Familiar. I didn't remember writing them, but the handwriting was mine. The rest of the pages were filled with drawings, geometric shapes, circles, spirals, grids, and on the last page, a single sentence. This time, complete it. I sat staring at that notebook until the lights went out. When they came back on, the classroom door was locked from the inside, and the children were standing beside me, silent, staring. When the doors opened again, the children were gone, the lights were working, the classroom was clean, the notebook gone, as if nothing had happened. I left the school building, but I didn't go home. Instead, I went to the principal's office, hoping to explain somehow. The secretary let me in right away, as if they'd been expecting me. He was sitting calmly at his desk, smiling, just like Miss Stefania, for a little too long. "Is something troubling you, assistant?" I told him I had found a notebook, that it had my name, my handwriting, that the children had stood around me in silence, and the door had been locked. The principal listened carefully, then nodded, and said in a flat, emotionless tone, "It's starting again. We've been through this before. Everything is within expected parameters. Don't worry. It's part of the adaptation." I tried to argue, but he only added, "If you start dreaming memories again, write them down, but don't share them with the children. They're only reflections. You are the process." I said nothing, just sat across from him, feeling like the floor beneath me was subtly shifting, as if we weren't in an office, but on a set, a stage. The principal kept writing in his notebook. I glanced at it, ordinary notes, but one line had been written multiple times. "Do not confuse observation with participation." I stood up, thanked him, and left. He didn't try to stop me. At the front desk, the secretary smiled at me, exactly like Miss Stefania, exactly, as if her face had been rehearsed. I didn't go home. I went into the village center. There was an old shop, a church, and a small administration building. I walked in and asked about the school. About Miss Stefania? About the children? The clerk behind the counter looked puzzled. Miss Stefania? She hasn't worked there in 2 years, I think. Correctional class? I believe it was shut down. After that incident, cold crept down my spine. 100 thoughts collided at once. Was she mistaken? Joking? But she went on. Are you here from the board or something? We still have the old files, if you'd like to take a look. She pulled out a folder and placed a photo in front of me. It was me. Younger, shorter hair, same eyes. Labeled, Candidate number 7, Attempt 3, Reaction type, Fragmented resistance, Observation to continue. I don't remember how I left. I only remember the photo, burned into my vision for a few seconds like it had been glued to my eyes. Attempt 3. That meant there had been a first, a second. What happens after the third? I walked through the village like in a dream. The houses faded into fog, people's faces, blank, pale. No one asked where I was going, no one even looked. I wanted to leave, just grab my things, catch a bus, disappear. But when I pulled out my phone, no signal. When I reached the bus stop, no schedule. And the road I once came down now led into an empty field. I don't remember how I got back to the school. The road didn't feel strange anymore. It felt familiar. I knew every turn, every fence, every crack in the wall by the door, like I had grown up there. When I opened the classroom door, Miss Stefania was already standing by the board. She smiled. For the first time, it felt genuinely warm. Ah, perfect timing. The children are waiting. Everyone, meet our new assistant for the correctional class. The children were seated at their desks, the same faces, the same eyes, but empty. None of them showed any sign they recognized me. I wanted to speak, to object, but the words wouldn't come. My throat locked, like in a dream. And then I saw the board, freshly wiped but faint white chalk still visible. Attempt 4. If you found this text, I'm still in there, somewhere. And maybe this isn't my 4th attempt. Maybe it's your 1st. Credits story adapted from a Reddit post. Narration by your channel name. Thank you for watching.